Hello dear friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're finally going to tackle the long-awaited video. We are going to go through all of the books that I've read in 2025. I'm halfway through my reading goal and we're halfway throughout the year. It is currently July, so technically I should have filmed this in June, but that's okay. Here are some of the physical books that I own with me. I am missing some because I read some on the Kindle. I have lent books out or I borrowed them from the library. But we're just gonna go straight into it, okay? Okay. I will say though, I do apologize. This is supposed to be a June post, but my voice has been gone since June. And it hasn't come back. If you can hear my voice now, usually I could talk a bit higher, and I feel like that's usually how my yapping voice sounds, but we'll just ignore that. We're just gonna talk about all the books that I read in 2025. So far, I am halfway through my reading goal. My goal for this year is going to be 20 books, and I so far have read 12. And I'm very, very excited for this month's reading, but right now we'll talk about what I've read so far. These are all the physical books I own right now. I will say that I read a lot of other books between Kindles, between the library, and I've also lent out a few books to my friends, so they might not be here with us. But I guess we're just gonna jump straight right into it. Grab your coffee. Let me get a sip myself, hold on. Grab your coffee, grab your matcha, grab a water, grab whatever you want to drink with me. And we're just gonna go straight into all of the books that I've read in 2025. I'm gonna look at my phone because I did take some notes, and also I'm not gonna lie, I'm forgetting a few things. I will go in order, I guess. So we will start off with the first book that I've read in 2025 being The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I read that one on my Kindle, and it is a translated work. I believe it's a Brazilian translation. And the overall story of The Alchemist follows a boy, a little shepherd named Santiago, who ends up wandering around. I believe his goal is to get to Egypt to get to the pyramids. And he's wandering around trying to find his personal legend after being spoken to by this king who tells him to go on this journey, learn about himself, learn about life, and find his personal legend. I will say I rated this book a 3 stars. Let me backtrack on everything right now. The way that I do my ratings goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is like the holy grail, like my next Bible. I will recommend this to everybody in the world, regardless of what genres they technically read. 5 stars is your general, like, this is a great 5-star book. 4 stars for me is when it becomes this was a really good book, but it's not reaching the high expectations of it's constantly taking up like my brain space, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time with it. 3 stars is where it just kind of is. It's a book that I read. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good. Maybe it's only a 3 stars because it was something that I wouldn't have usually read, whether it was something that didn't resonate with me at the time. Maybe the language just was too juvenile, like a YA fiction, stuff like that, and that's okay. 3 stars isn't bad for me. It's just a book that I read, and it's not the best, it's not the worst. 2 stars is when I typically sit there and I stare and I go, I should have DNF'd this. But I kept going anyways. And then 1 star is total schlop. But going back to the first book that I read, I'm sorry, I'm really jumbled. With The Alchemist, I did rate it 3 stars. The story really does follow as more of a fable. I read it really quickly. I read it on my Kindle. It was a nice read. But I will say, seeing as it reads as a fable and more of a self-help story, it's not what I was looking for, and the best way I could phrase it, I feel very content with my life, and The Alchemist really follows this guy trying to find more, and he talks to a bunch of other people and their personal legends, and following the signs and letting the universe guide you and all that stuff. And while it is a nice narrative, and I kind of like the rating because, again, it reads kind of like a fairy tale, it wasn't the best book in the world. I did read a bunch of other Goodreads reviews as to like why people loved and hated it. And once again to say, The Alchemist it kind of really is a self-help book. So the people that loved it needed it. The people that hated it, oh wow. There's really no in between on Goodreads, guys. Like, it's either they hate it or they love it. I'm right in the middle just because I understand that like it just wasn't for me at the time. But it wasn't a bad book. I will say the one thing that did irk me, which I also saw other people agree with me, was at some point as he's following off in the desert and he's talking to these other people, he falls in love with a girl, and she's I believe she's literally just like called a desert woman who he falls in love with, and he has this kind of like, he gets stuck because he's like, should I leave her and continue on with my personal legend, or should I stay with her and love her and live with her? And I believe at this point he's met the alchemist, who tells him, do not worry. She, like, the women of the desert understand that the man's personal legend is to go out and adventure, and they've already accepted their fate, and whether they're gonna lose you or keep you forever, do not worry about her. That is her personal legend to deal with. You must go find your own so you can return to her. And it's like, I believe this book was written like in the let me check so I'm not wrong. Give me a second, I need to get my story. Yes, okay. It was written in 1988, and the translated one was published in 2021 or whatever. I will say, yes, it is an older book, but let's be a little real here. I didn't love having to read that, yes, the man gets to go on his personal legend and the woman just gets to sit there. It's not a huge part of the book. It really is just like a little snippet of this guy's adventure, but not the best. Not the best. But I did read it. It was a nice book. 3 stars. I just dropped my phone. I'm sorry. Very solid stuff. Very solid stuff. But that was the first book that I read in 2025. Now we're just going to keep hopping on. Next to next to next. Okay. This one I do not physically own with me right now because I am actually doing a book swap with my friends, and you guys will see soon. I'm going to be doing the 24-hour reading challenge with them, but this weekend we ended up swapping books to see whether we will finish each other's books within the week or if we're just going to finish it throughout the 2024 reading challenge, the 24-hour reading challenge. But I did lend out my book to my friend, and that book is my 5 stars, my 6 stars, my holy grail, my love, Babel by R.F. Kuang. I don't have it with me, but for comparison, and I'm just gonna jump straight into the rest of Rebecca's work here, is, do you see how tabbed up this Poppy War trilogy is? Do you see this? Babel is exactly the same. I will say Babel is just, if you haven't heard of it, I'm assuming you might be new to Book Talk or BookTube or whatever, or you're living under a rock. Because to me, oh my goodness, one of my favorite YouTubers, Newly Nova, she talks about it all the time, and I love her work. I love her work, and so is, I'm jumbling it all up. Oh my gosh. I will say right away, right now, I am worried that I literally cannot conceptualize to you guys just how amazing Babel was to me. I did cry a little. I love the characters, but let me explain to you what it is. Babel by R.F. Kuang is the story of Robin Swift, who is a Chinese, he's, right off the bat, he becomes orphaned as his mother dies from the plague in China, and he gets picked up and thrown into Britain by this professor who wants to bring him up to be a translator in the institution of Babel, which is within the Oxford University in Britain. And their Babel translators are there to help serve the crown, to help serve, to help serve the crown, to help the country of Britain move forward, because within Babel, there is this magic system. And it's notoriously hard to explain, but I'm going to do my best to do it. Within this fantasy, I will say, sorry, I'm really jumbled. I love this book so much. Babel's genres, I would definitely say, is more of it's similar, hold on. It is a historical fiction with fantasy, but not like an epic fantasy, more of a contemporary, like, magical world area. And it is set in the 1800s, during with the Oxford University and like Britain and everything like that, where colonialism is rampant, and we learn about the opioid epidemic in China and all that stuff like that. That being said, within this world there's a magic system where they have these silver bars, which they're not necessarily used as wands, but they can also be industrialized. And the way that they work in the magic system here is the act of translation, and it is what is lost in translation between the two languages, which manifests into the world. So examples of how this magic can be used is, say you say, like, I'm not a translator student, but I believe they use the Chinese word wuxing. Pause.
行的.
Yes, that. I'm cringing at myself. I'm so sorry. Anyways, the way that works, an example of that would be saying like invisible and then wuxing. And then within that, it doesn't necessarily make the person invisible, but it does translate in a way of how invisibility is similar but not the same between the two languages. Another way that this magic system works in the world is that it's industrialized, and they are able to inscribe the sort of translations onto the bars and then put them on carriages and boats to make things go faster and even make weapons and such. That being said, you are following Robin Swift, who is brought up from China, who learned English, and suddenly he's taken to Britain, and now he's to become this translator student and help serve the crown as a student of Babel with 3 other characters. And it is a heartfelt story. It talks about colonialism and racism, and you can assume the time frame as to where this all happens. 2 of the other characters are also some of the only women within this college, so you get a glimpse of that, and it really is just, it is a beautiful, beautiful story, and I need you guys to read it. I love it so much. I'm gonna hopefully make all my friends read it, but even with my description of Babel, I feel like I haven't been able to fully explain to you just how wonderful and heartbreaking and thought-provoking the story is. R.F. Kuang's writing is just amazing. I've heard a lot of critiques that she kind of just hands everything to us, but let's be real, sometimes we need something handed to us. I will say that the world building is also just incredible, especially since R.F. Kuang is a translator student. She truly did write on what she knows, and I think that's amazing. Just to also emphasize how wonderful the world building is, she literally has footnotes within the story to further explain little concepts of certain classes in Babel, or how the history in the world is differently shaped compared to actual history. But overall, it's just a beautiful, wonderful, magical book. I couldn't put it down. And that was the second book I read in 2025. I'm going to go off track now, and I will talk about the rest of R.F. Kuang's work right here, because we have the Poppy War trilogy. This is also my Bible. I'm once again recommending this to all of the girlies who have read Babel who haven't yet. The Poppy War trilogy is definitely more of a fantastical, an epic fantasy. You learn about gods, you learn about colonialism, you fight along with everything, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, I have not finished a series or a trilogy since, I think, genuinely elementary or middle school. I have not read an entire I'm not gonna lie, guys, I haven't even read the entirety of the Hunger Games. I only read the first one, and then the prequel. I have not read a series in so long. So when I picked up the Poppy Wars, I was incredibly very, very not surprised, because I already had high expectations for the series, but I was extremely satisfied with how wonderful the world building was, with how easily it roped me into the world. The characters are very great. I will only explain the Poppy War just because the rest of this would spoil the Poppy War. But I will say that I don't think any of these books go any less than 5 stars. I wouldn't say it's a 6-star series. I actually, as a whole, 6 stars. As 1 by 1, 5, 6, 5. Yeah, that's my rating on the Poppy War trilogy. I really loved it. My favorite was the Dragon Republic. I also will say, for some reason, Book Talk likes to say the Poppy War trilogy is a romance. It is not a romance. Guys, while there are romantic aspects in it, it is, I don't know. I'm so sorry, Book Talk. You guys are freaking delusional. This is not a romantic fantasy. This is nowhere near, say, the ACOTAR series. There's no smut in this. Don't read this for smut. Read this to compare history to the real world. This is once again like a very thought-provoking. It really talks about the arts of war. Let me actually just look through what I've tabbed these with. There's a lot of social commentary on classism, colorism, racism, misogyny, etc. The character development I really love. There are some wholesome and like sad parts of as well. In the second book, I made tabs for, let me find it. Yes, for social commentary on politics, trauma, and also amazing quotes, along with big feelings, character development, the happy moments. And for the Burning God, I made tabs for commentary on things that are just true: war, feminism, racism, colonialism, the brutality outcome of war, the consequences of war that are left unheard, character development, growth, lighthearted moments, and just shock. But with all of that in mind, this series is not going to be a romantic one. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that the romance in these books are not supposed to be romantic. Even the characters understand, like, whoa, you are following an entire war in these 3 books. This is not supposed to be a cutesy, like, oh my gosh. And then he pinned me against the wall and growled in my ear. I unsheathed my sword, holding it up to his chin, and we kissed. No, it is not that. It is not that at all. Sorry. Rant over. I will start talking about the Poppy War now. And again, I would like to explain more of this, but it's a series. Obviously, I feel like I just can't explain these 2 books. Just know that they are amazing, and I did enjoy the endings. But the Poppy War trilogy can be split up into 3 acts. Is it actually split up into 3 acts? I don't know if it is. I believe it actually is. No, it's not. Okay. The Poppy War, the first book itself, can be split into 3 acts. You are following Ruin Fang, who is this 16-year-old girl. She lives in the Rooster province, which is like one of the most the least rich province within the country of, sorry, I'm panicking. Oh, within this world. She is a dark-skinned girl. I did read some reviews on it where someone critiqued how the naming of the cities were quite literally just like the 12 Chinese zodiacs, and how some people, but specifically those who can speak Chinese and understood the translated like words in which Rebecca used to name her characters and such, they did think it was a bit lazy. But as someone who doesn't speak Chinese, I think the world building was pretty freaking great. But anyways, our main character comes from a poorer district. She's brown, while further up it's going to be like the lighter skinned people of the country. But that being said, she does not want to get married. She does not want to be sold off to someone. She is basically kind of like a Cinderella. And the only way out is for her to take this really, really freaking hard exam and then join this military academy, which, spoiler alert, she does. And from there on, she is navigating the world as the darkest girl there, as the one who didn't have the privilege to learn everything. She has to fight her way through the academics, grueling her way through trying to stay within the academy, but also prepare for the war so that she doesn't get sent back and such. And from there on out, the history lessons that are taught, she does have to put into use. I don't know how much more I can explain about this. I just need you guys to read it. I just need you guys to trust me on this. Oh my gosh, there's so much lore about this. I really loved listening and like reading about the lessons that she learns in the academy. A lot of it is the art of war. A lot of it is also like combat and such that she has to learn. There is also shamanism that she practices, because let me see if hold on. Yes, okay, it does say she does practice shamanic powers, because within the academy there are certain classes that you can pledge to. Like, I believe there's one for strategy, there's one for combat, there's one for lore, which is the one that I believe she almost or doesn't pledge to. There's medicine, and then there's something else. But anyways, I may have kind of spoiled it for you guys. I'm so sorry. But I just need you guys to trust me on the Poppy War trilogy. As someone who hasn't read a series in a very, very, very long time and was hooked on this and read this all within the span of like 2 months. This is like Genesis, John, and I can't think of the other biblical text. I'm sorry, everybody. But please, please, please trust me on this. The Poppy War trilogy is an absolute gem, and I'm very, very excited for Catabasis to come out. Catabasis, whatever you want to call it. I'm extremely excited for that to come out. But oh my goodness, I've only gotten to like 5 books so far. Let me switch topics. Let's go into the next one. Okay, as for the next one, I realized that I do have a little theme going on here. I have been picking up new authors and then reading their next books immediately, which I will go ahead and move on to Cocomelons right now, just because the 3rd book that I read in 2025, ignoring the fact that we went off track, was Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This story follows Cleo and Frank, who meet in New York City as a little meet cute, and they end up getting married because Cleo is I believe she's a British, not transfer student, but whatever the word is. She's studying abroad in art, and Frank, they do have an age gap. It is like a 10-20 year age gap. Cleo is this beautiful, wonderful, artistic blonde woman, and then Frank is, I forgot what his job is, but he's a rich guy, and they do fall in love, and it's kind of navigating their love story along with literally everybody. Everybody that is mentioned in this book has their own chapter, and you read about their lives after Cleo and Frank got married and how it affected them. The best way I can describe this book is reading the fucked up shit that people in New York do. That's it. That really is it. Not to say that this is what New Yorkians are actually like, which is kind of an insane generalization, but this book has a lot of partying. It has a lot of drama. I did really love reading about the other characters. You read about Cleo's friend who is exploring his, not only just sexuality, he's already a queer man, but it's also him exploring his gender identity. You read about Frank's other friend who is known as the fat friend, and him kind of coping his way through life. You read about Frank's younger sister who is a model and her kind of story and how she's running around through everything, and how all these people tie in and kind of just converse with them. Let me double check. I think I gave this book a 4 stars, maybe a 3.5. Yes, 3.5. Once again, this wasn't a horrible book. It wasn't my favorite book. This book kind of really did just stress me out. It really is just reading about people kind of ruining their lives, and the frustrations of love and marrying for both love and not love. But I thought it was really nice. I did enjoy Coco Miller's what's it called, writing style. Her prose are quite nice, and the language is fun. So while this wasn't my favorite book in the world, it was nice. Let's see what I tabbed everything with. Did I even explain my tabs? Sometimes I write down my tabs because I know I'll share it with people. I don't think I did, so I can't even well, if I reread this, but there were some cute parts. There were things where I was this is nice, but a lot of it was also just it's just me kind of reading and being whoa, what is wrong with these people? But it's fun. It's fun. If you want an interesting read, if you want some character exploration, this is the book to look for. That being said, we're gonna skip again to the future. I had been waiting so long for this book to come out in paperback. This is Coco Miller's, ooh, the tabs are still in here. This is Coco Miller's Blue Sisters. This is the story of 4 sisters, the Blue Sisters. And it's following I believe this is Nikki. Nikki is a sister who had passed away. And you were following Lucky, Bonnie, and Avery. Avery's the oldest, then it goes Bonnie, then it goes Nikki, then it goes Lucky. Yes. And despite them all being siblings, they are all extremely different. Avery is in a queer relationship with her wife. She had struggled with addiction. She lives in Britain, I believe, with her wife, Chidi. Bonnie is a boxer who actually becomes a bouncer after Nikki's death, you follow all of their love stories, you follow the way that grief follows them, and there's a lot of drama between them. But there are a lot of beautiful quotes as well that I really enjoyed. The sisterhood in this, it was real. And I will say, while my sister was at her swimming lesson, I was reading my book, and the mother beside me saw me crying, and she was just like, so you're telling me to not pick up that book? And I go, no, you should read it, it's really good. It's just really sad. And I really enjoyed it. I think in the place where I am right now, I also kind of resonated with it. Not to say that like any of my siblings are dead. No, they're not. Thank goodness. Knock on wood and everything. But I really did resonate with the way that all of them had their sibling quarrels, along with the way that they loved each other and the grief. And a big, I might cry myself. A big thing about this book was how over and over again you can see, despite like their differences and the different narratives and each sister's like POV, they're all the same. They are all the same siblings. The things that they hate each other for, they also reflect onto each other. They really are just a different mirror to each other. It's really beautiful to read, and it's also deeply saddening. I think the loss of Nikki this is basically Little Women. This is, I haven't even read Little Women, but I would like to say this is kind of like Little Women, in the terms of Nikki was not fated to have died. It just happened to be the way things are. And again, the way that they cope, the way that they have a messy relationship with their mother. I really love this book. I think I gave it a 4 stars. Honestly, the more I'm talking about it, the more I want to say this is leaning towards a 4.5, maybe even a 5 stars. I love Coco Meller's prose. I was worried though, because usually with like multiple POVs, it can be challenging to write different characters who have a different mindset. But I feel like sometimes when you read multiple POVs, sometimes the characters kind of blend together, but this did not happen. I feel like you were able to see all of their personalities shine through. And once again, a lot of the tabs here were me noting like, oh, Avery might hate Lucky for this, but they are literally the same. This is where they get it from their mother. This is where XYZ. And it really is beautiful. And I want to read a quote to you that just kind of left me in shambles, because it was lovely. It's so wonderful. So let me find it for you real quick. Actually, this might have been in the very end, now that I think about it. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is a very big quote, and I'm gonna read it to you guys just because I loved it. Let's see, where do I want to start? A lot was written about romantic love, Avery thought, about the profundity of that embrace. But this, too, was deserving of rapture, of song. Before she ever knew a lover's body, she knew her sister's, could see herself in their long feet and light eyes, their sleek limbs, and moments with them when it was simply good. An early morning, still dark out, their parents asleep. Her younger sisters arriving one by one at her bedside, hair tangled, excluding their sour and sweet morning musk. She'd lifted the covers for each of them, letting them crowd into her bottom bunk, bodies pressed against each other, one another, and they'd fallen asleep like that, dropping off like puppies curled around their mother's warm belly. She'd slept too, safe in the center of her sisters, not knowing or needing to know where she ended and where she began. Squeezed beside Bonnie and Lucky now, it was superfluous to describe what she felt for them as love. They were love, beautiful and unbearable in hers. And then another thing that really, really kept getting me was the constant reminder from every single POV, every single sister had constantly said this, that they were not 4 and they would never be again, but they were starting to find symmetry in 3. And I think this one definitely resonates with me because besides my 2 sisters, I find love and friendship within all of my friends. 2 of my best friends I consider my brothers. The rest of them I consider as my family. My friend group as well, we didn't lose someone, but, I'm gonna cry. But it is a constant reminder of kind of a loss when there is such perfect like energy and symmetry between a group of 4 and then having to lose one and having to try and continue life with just the 3 of them. And it's really sad, and I want to cry right now thinking about it all, because this is a lovely book, and I think I'm gonna change my rating to 5 stars, because clearly this has impacted me a lot, especially when you see like the tabs, the tabbing difference. Never mind. I guess this is gonna be a 5-star read for me. But that is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I loved it a lot. Okay, so for the next books that I had read in 2025, once again following the path of reading the same author twice, and this is an author I would definitely love to read more about. She's beauty, she's grace, she is amazing, she's well known for her beautiful and enriching prose. I will say I deeply regret, I don't know why, I thought I wouldn't love the book. I was worried because it is a classic, these 2 are classics, and I was extremely worried that I wouldn't, what is it called? That I wouldn't, love it. But the more that I've read classics, the more that I realize, holy crap, wow, this is a work of art, and no matter what, there is a reason that they can stand the test of time. That being said, I borrowed the first one from the library, and I'm quite upset that I don't have a copy of it to share with you guys. But the 2 books that I read in February were Sula and Beloved by Toni Morrison. I do have a copy of Beloved right here. I'll talk about Beloved first just because I have it right now. Beloved follows the story of Seth and... what's her daughter's name? Denver. Seth and Denver. This is a story about love, about generational trauma, about kind of the feminine love and the fight that, being a woman in the 1800s, being a black woman in the 1800s. Sit with me here right now. Think for a second. It couldn't get any harder than that. We follow Seth's story as she is a freed runaway slave. I believe she had been freed for 18 years now when we follow the current story. Her daughter, Denver, being 18. And it is about just kind of Seth constantly having to cope and deal with the life of being an ex-slave, of the things that she had to endure, and the horrible things that she had to do and, live through in order to live the peaceful and quiet life that she has now. Beloved is the name, well, not the lack of a name, kind of the ended up given name of one of her daughters that she had lost because of evil white men who had tried to, end her story and such. And in a way, I would like to say it is a magical story. Again, you were following... Okay, within the story, at some point, another girl kind of shows up, and her name is Beloved, and it's very clearly Beloved, like the daughter that she had lost. But it takes Denver and Seth a second to realize that. Denver is her daughter, and while she had 2 older brothers, they had left because of the things that they learned about their mother. And it's kind of just... damn it! Toni Morrison, along with R.F. Kuang, I feel like I cannot conceptualize and explain to you guys just how beautiful and rich these stories are. I do not feel fit to try and pitch this to you, even though I'm trying to right now. I definitely just want to say to trust me. You learn about Seth's mother-in-law as well, and kind of just like the life that they had, the life that they lived, and the beauty with blackness and with living in these times and the fights that they had to go through. And I loved it. I loved Beloved. Obviously a 5-star. I'm going to assume every Toni Morrison book is going to be a 5-star read. But I will say, as much as I loved Beloved, I definitely would put Sula over Beloved. I love Sula. That's why I'm so mad that I don't have it with me. I wish I kept it with me so I can read you guys the quotes. But the story of Sula follows Sula and her best friend. What is her name? I read this back in February. Please forgive me, everybody. Sula and Nell. So Sula and Nell are best friends, and once again, they are these beautiful little black girls in the 1800s, and they live on top of this hill, away from all the white people down below in the valley, where they're safe from, the elements and such. And it is the story of you know, Nell and Sula. It's about girlhood, it's about friendship, and the kind of juxtaposition between how they both end up growing up and the lives that they end up living. Despite all the things that they went through together as children, Sula ends up becoming this wild child who kind of, she doesn't run away, but she leaves the town. She lives a more audacious life. And then she comes home and she sees her best friend Nell over here having a family. She has kids, she has a husband, and it's kind of just them navigating life together, loving each other despite all the differences. I just spit everywhere. And I will say it did make me tear up. I really, really love this story. You also follow, once again, generational trauma, because you learn more about Sula's family and her mother and her grandmother, and, you know, all of the things that they went through. It really is, once again, I cannot fully pitch you guys and share to you guys how just beautiful Toni Morrison's prose are. It's heavy, it's deep, and at the end of the day, it's like, what do you expect from such hard stories to read? They're not hard stories to read in terms of like, oh, they're difficult, but they are just, they cut deep heavy for a reason, and I think that they're just wonderful, and I believe you guys should read them. I love them. I will say, the only thing that took a bit of getting used to, if you haven't read a Toni Morrison book yet, is probably, while her prose are amazing, the first thing, or no, not the first thing, but the one thing that kind of took a second to get used to was the way that she writes is kind of just like the way that she plays with the format of the book. There will be one scene, and then the next paragraph, with no indicator that anything has changed besides you starting to read it, it will move on to a different scene, or it will kind of change an entire setting. But even so, with that little quirk, I think it's wonderful. I believe you guys should definitely go read it. And once again, hashtag just trust me. Just trust me. I know I'm probably not pitching these super well to you guys, but just trust me. Just trust me. Please, 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 please. And anyways, moving on to the next books that I have read. I believe now we're going to move on to the books that are kind of standalones, in the sense that I have not read anything else from those authors, and that's okay. I will say there is kind of a reason why I haven't picked up anything else from these authors yet, besides time and life and everything. It is kind of just because these books are we're no longer in the 5-star reads area, and that's okay. What I read when I went camping was If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a Japanese translated work. It is the story about a man who finds out he's going to pass away soon, and the devil kind of just pops in and is like, hey, I have a deal with you. Every day, I will give you another day of life, so long as you choose and bear the responsibility of being the person who removes a random item out from the world. And you follow, I believe, a week long of this man's journey, kind of falling in love with life again. He is just a mailman. He's just some dude. He has a bad relationship with his father. He has no partner or spouse. His mother had passed away, but he does have his lovely little cat. And you just kind of follow him, fall in love with life again. And it's just kind of him reflecting on everything while also living. I believe at some point they get rid of phones. I think that's the first thing that they get rid of, actually. This was a nice book. Again, it didn't really stick with me. Not to say that it was a self-help book, but it definitely was more like a deeper meditation on life. And not to say that it wasn't good, but I feel like I'm pretty happy. This was a good 4-star read. It's quick, it's nice, it's comforting, and I read it while camping and finished it on a park bench, and I had a good time with it. But that is If Cats Disappeared from the World. The other books that I've read so far, this one I did read on my Kindle, was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is my first Abby Jimenez book, and let me just tell you, it was cute. It was cute as hell. I really, really liked it. Let me see what I rated it. I think I rated it a 4 stars. yeah, a good 4-star book. It wasn't horrible, it wasn't bad. I think I'm just slowly kind of not falling out of, but I am having less of a crave for the romance genre, and that's totally fine. I think a part of that is just because I'm in a loving, healthy relationship, in comparison to like some of my book club girls who only read like extreme romance books, and that's okay. It's okay to have your taste and such. I think just for me right now, I am looking for other things. But that being said, I still get in the mood for romance, and Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez was lovely. It was cute. I think I did cry while reading it, actually. You follow the story of Emily and... You follow the story of Emma and Justin. Emma is a travel nurse who has her best friend with her, and they are just kind of wandering around the world. Well, not the world, but around the country because they travel for their job. And Emma on Reddit finds this kind of post about this guy who is talking about this kind of curse that he has, where every single time he dates someone, after they break up, the person that he previously dated falls in love and gets married. And he's talking about like how the person his ex is now married to his best friend, and he's kind of just like, guys, what do I do about this curse? Am I the asshole? Blah 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 blah. Because he names his dog after like a really ugly dog after his friend, which is really funny and silly. And you know, obviously this is a love story, so Emma ends up like texting him, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I have the same thing. Why don't we, you know, blah blah blah. And they end up talking, and they end up doing the dating thing. They do this dating thing. Emma ends up going to... Wow, I have a memory of a goldfish despite... The thing about reading for me is that I know I loved it. That doesn't mean I remembered every detail about it. Where does she end up going? Minnesota. Justin lives in Minnesota. And she ends up going there, and they have like a little set of rules as to what they need to do to accomplish this, like a little date thingy going on so that they could both find their soulmates. But in reality, Emma actually isn't feverishly looking for love, and she's just kind of like doing it for the funsies of it. Meanwhile, Justin, though, don't you love it when the man falls first? Don't you love that? He obviously has already fallen first, and he definitely already wants to try and like see things through, but his life is super messy right now, and it's following the story between the two of them. I don't know if it says this in the synopsis, but I'm gonna keep putting it, explaining more of it, because a big part of their story that I really liked is that they did have complications with life. I liked that it was realistic. Emma has a lot of issues with her crazy mother, who is always going AWOL. She has never known her father. And it's just like a big old mess for her. She has she has commitment issues, which is why she's constantly jumping place to place. Meanwhile, Justin is kind of fighting the battle between his mom. Not to say that his mom is a bad person, but after the loss of his father, his mom had done some bad things, which has sent her, or like it's going to send her off to prison for a few years, which means that he has to be the sole... Let me calm down. Which means that Justin has to be the... Excuse me. My puppy's here. I want to say hi. Which means that he has to be the sole caretaker of his 3 younger siblings. And it's kind of just a battle, because it's realistic. Emma doesn't want to be a mom. She has a lot of shit going on. She's busy. And obviously Justin has stuff going on. So there's an actual conflict between them. And even so, it's like... It's a love story. It's gonna work out eventually, right? I really, really liked it. It was a good, solid read. And it was nice, especially seeing as I needed a good palate cleanser from all of these I have a very broad taste in reading, I want to say. I have these epic fantasies, I have the classics, I have good old lit fics, and I definitely want to say that it really, he's so cute. I definitely want to say that it was a good palate cleanser, and I am planning on reading more from her soon. But that is the other book I've read in 2025. Let me double check, because I may or may not be on my final book. My puppy's hiccuping. Pixel, say hi. Anyways, we are on the final stretch, guys. I've been yapping far away. And unfortunately, I'm gonna end this on not a super good note. I'm so sorry. I probably should have put this in the middle somewhere. But I did finish this yesterday. This is Mending Bodies by Han Lai Chu. I hope I pronounced that right. This is a Chinese translated work. I actually bought this from the, I think, what is it called? Let me find it. Pause. I'm gonna give you guys a little break on my yapping. I'm so sorry. Extending the video a bit. I got this book at the Small World of Books in Venice, California. I will actually be revisiting it again. Very exciting stuff. It's a very cute little bookshop. If you check my like little shorts, you will see it. They have a beautiful little kitty cat, a book cat. Very cute stuff. But I ended up picking up 2 translated works from there. The one that I have right here is Mending Bodies by, well, yeah, I already explained it to you. And this is the book that I picked up. I did enjoy it. It was okay. It was a 3-star read for me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna read to you the back. This is the synopsis of it, of Mending Bodies. Is, in a failing city, a government program incentivizes couples to conjoin surgically, attaching themselves to one another, promising a flourishing economy, ecological revitalization, and personal fulfillment. A student writing her dissertation on the program's history begins to suffer from insomnia. As her world unravels and under the weight of expectations by both society and her close friends, she worries that maybe they're all right when they tell her that it would be better, and for the good of another person, for the good of the country, to sacrifice everything that she is and get conjoined. Mending Bodies blends body horror and political allegory to explore a world where even the motives of those you love most are shaped by larger forces. That being said, the synopsis kind of gives you exactly what this book is about, but at the same time, exactly not. While it does blend body horror and kind of makes a political allegory for life, I felt like that wasn't really what the book was at all. Maybe the synopsis is just wrong. But I think my favorite thing about this book was kind of the dissertation that the student is writing. It was really interesting to hear more about the world and like the rationalization for conjoining. Like, it is quite literally like the people are like sewing themselves together and they're living life that way because it's better for the ecosystem, you know, joint cars, so technically it's like less bodies, like for single car use, fulfillment within yourselves while having another person and such. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really see the political allegories in this the way I thought I would. If anything, I think this is more of a meditation on the self and kind of your attachments to other people and who you are as a person and your individualism. Because I believe she is a nameless author, actually, now that I think about it, a nameless main character. But the student that's writing her dissertation kind of runs around the place. Obviously, it's a college dissertation, so she has to have thought experiments and she talks to other people and she learns about other people's experiences, whether they want to be conjoined, whether they don't want to be. She talks to her aunt who doesn't want to be. But along with that, what is it called? She talks to her, she ends up getting a therapist for her insomnia. And spoiler alert, she does conjoin herself to him. And once again, while I understand the political allegories and kind of what the world building is in here trying to explain, I didn't really get much of that. It wasn't a bad book. It was interesting. It was thought-provoking. There were a few quotes in here that I really did enjoy. A quote that I have here is, "Everyone lives in their own world, but to avoid conflict, we fake companionship as if we're all kindred spirits." And while there are a lot of wonderful things in here that made me think about, you know, the self and kind of who we are as people, it wasn't really the book that I was looking to read. But honestly, I think that's okay. It was interesting. The body horror wasn't super horrendous. It wasn't very explicit, which is why I don't think it was very much like a body horror. I think the most like gruesomeness you get out of this is kind of them explaining how achy they feel after surgery and being like mended to one another. But besides that, it wasn't a horror. It wasn't the horror I thought it was going to be. It really was more like a social commentary on yourself and your life. But that is the last book that I've read so far in 2025. I've yapped so far away, and I'm so sorry, but I'm going to keep you here for one more second because I am going to say that I am currently reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. That's it. that's all I have to say left. I am still obviously reading throughout the summer. I'm very excited. Please keep an eye out for more vlogs. I'm so sorry that my posting schedule is kind of like a mess, but those are all the books. Please let me know any book recommendations based off of what I read, or if you just think they're good books for me to read. I will put it on my TBR, and hopefully I can read them soon. But once again, I love and I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for staying. Have a good day.